Hi, this is Eric Chase, afternoon host on Q105 and your host for 68 Words. This episode, our guest is usually someone who's often a couple dozen feet off the ground. Vegas native and AGT Golden Buzzer winner, Aaron Fotheringham was born with spina bifida and very little use of his legs, but that hasn't stopped him from becoming an athlete, competing and dominating in a sport he dubbed WCMX. We'll get to his up-in-the-air experiences, but as I always like to ask our guests, does Aaron feel like he has a disability?
You know, honestly, no. I don't, because, you know, even throughout the day, if I come across an obstacle, like a giant set of stairs, you know, I just find a way to get up it. I don't really dwell on, oh man, I can't do this, you know. I feel like I'm more based on a solution rather than the problem. The only time I really am upset about my disability is when people are treating me different because of it.
People, places, and spaces doing disability differently, sharing first-hand experience in our podcast. Inspired by the 68 words that sparked the disability rights movement, learn where it started and what's next. Hi, my name is Stuart James, and I'm the Executive Director here at the Ability Center, and welcome to 68 Words.
Thanks for taking some time. Thanks for waking up early to be a part of 68 Words.
Oh, thank you for having me.
You have been on a whirlwind here in Northwest Ohio, Toledo. Have you ever been to Ohio before?
Yeah, I was actually in Ohio a few weeks ago doing the Nitro Circus tour.
Excellent. Have you been to this part of Ohio?
Where are we?
We're in the part that's just south of Detroit and Michigan. Do you ever, when doing all your traveling, do you ever wake up and go, what city am I in? Or have you forgotten?
Yeah, sometimes it's hard. You know, people will ask, you know, where you just were or something. And I'm like, oh, I don't even know. You know, I just kind of woke up there.
At what point in your career, and that's what it is, it's a career. At least I believe so. I don't know how you feel about it, but at what point in your career we're like, oh, wow, I'm really famous?
I don't know if it's ever sunk in.
Yeah.
Because people say that, you know, they'll be like, they'll drop the C word, celebrity or something like that. And I'm like, whoa.
Right.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. At
lunch yesterday, Mallory was like, I wish you were sitting next to him so you could get to know him. I was like, I'm very observant. I
oh no.
I think you're pretty humble and have a lot of humility. Maybe it's because you're soft-spoken. You probably turn it on when you get out there to perform, right?
Yeah, I do my best to bring some more energy to it when I'm up there talking or, you know, doing tricks and stuff.
It's hard to not have energy when you're, 16, 20 feet up in the air?
Yeah, you know.
You've got no choice at that point.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, you were born with spina bifida, correct?
Yep.
For those that don't know about it, give us the what's the Twitter length version of that and how you started your life as a kid.
Yeah, so spina bifida is a birth defect. It has something to do with the development of the spinal cord or something like that.
Something like that.
You know, but for, you know, it's kind of different for each person. And so for me, I have a little bit of use of my legs, but it's pretty limited. And so, yeah, I just used crutches for a while, and then about the age of 8 I started using the wheelchair full time.
Your brother was pretty inspirational in your life. He's the one that kind of moved you into what you do. And one of these questions I'll ask you is, what is the 4 letters that I think you kind of coined? But your brother is really important in your life, right?
Yeah. You know, my brother was a huge inspiration for me because, you know, you look up to your older brother. And so, you know, watching him get into action sports was really cool. And unfortunately, about a year after I started, he had a pretty bad face plant, so he quit riding.
Right.
He was like, oh, he wisened up a little bit, you know.
At some point in the course of our conversation, I want to ask you if you have ever had one of those, or you were up in the air coming down. I'll save that question for later. Before your brother led you down this road or inspired you down this road, you were still, even with the crutches and the spina bifida, you were a pretty active kid. Fly or attempting to fly around like every other toddler, like Superman?
Yeah, you know, and I don't know if it's because I grew up with the spina bifida and it's, you know, kind of been a part of my life, but I never felt like I was really that much different. Like the surgeries and the wheelchair and stuff were just like, there to, this wheelchair was just there to help me and stuff, and so I never felt different, and I feel like I still had the same imagination that a little kid would have,
I was talking about you on my radio show yesterday because outside of Ability Center stuff, you'll be at the Imagination Station later, which is a super cool place, and I was talking on the show how there's one question I always like to ask the guests here on the pod, and that's, do you feel you have a disability? Are you disabled? And I was saying on the radio show, I can't wait to hear your answer, because I would guess that 99% of the human population can't do what you do or are unwilling to do it. Here you are up in the air. So do you feel disabled? Do you think you have a disability?
Honestly, no. I don't, because, even throughout the day, if I like come across like an obstacle, like a giant set of stairs, like I just find a way to get up it, and it's not, I don't really dwell on, oh man, I can't do this, I feel like I'm more based on a solution rather than the problem. And so, the only time I really am upset about my disability is when people are treating me different because of it.
Sure. And that's why we do this podcast here, 68 Words, and so much of the work at the Ability Center to get people to think differently. When you go certain places other than people, what's your mindset when a place isn't as accessible as you'd like it to be?
I don't know. Like I don't get that upset. I mean, there's times where it's like, oh man, this sucks. There's a lot of stairs going into this building. But I don't really, I don't feel entitled that I need everything to be catered to me. And I think that's why I like skate parks so much and action sports, because, I just had to find a way to adapt it and, find a way to do these different obstacles and stuff. And so, yeah. So
your way of advocacy is more of just powering through it, like dusting it off and going on, as opposed to more ardent and aggressive ways, I guess, a way of putting it, right?
Yeah, I mean, as far as like, really, like I've said, the biggest obstacle is, people treating me like I can't do something. And so it upsets me more when people are overly helpful rather than just leave me to my own devices, you know? And so it's like, if I, deal with something that's super not accessible or something like that, it's just like, I don't feel like I'm different. Like I'm just doing what anyone else would do. I'm just, it maybe looks more of a struggle or whatever, but by now I pretty much have a system,
Let me ask you, this is the first time I've ever brought this up on the podcast or to anybody here at the Ability Center, because it's still a lot of a learning process for me as well. And the common thing that our guests talk about is you don't have to help. If I'm struggling, you don't have to help. You can help when I ask you for help. Yeah. How would you treat somebody like me? I might look like a jerk. I might come off like a jerk. Not to you, but a lot of people would say that. And I am naturally a helpful person. Whether you are like disabled to the point of crawling on the ground or a completely able-bodied 28-year-old who just left the gym, I'm very likely to hold the door for you. Or if you can't reach something, I'll get it for you. Would you be able to read my body language and go, this person is just trying to be a decent human being as opposed to having pity for me?
Yeah, but there also is a line, like, there are good intentions, but a lot of the time those good intentions are kind of done for the wrong reason. I don't know if that's
self-serving.
Yeah, or it's based on a lot of assumptions, and, while it might seem like not a big deal to you, to that person that's just doing like a basic, human activity, like getting something off a shelf. And, I definitely think if I need help, it's my responsibility to ask for it, because just recently I'm getting my wheelchair out of the truck and a guy comes up and he just I don't even know this guy. He just grabs my chair as I'm trying to pull it out the back of my truck, but he's trying to pull it over the side, and he's fumbling it and just making the whole process more difficult. And plus, the way, I do things, like I have to leave my crutch here, and so when someone brings me my wheelchair, it just throws off my whole vibe, and most of the time it just makes it more difficult. So I'm like, please don't touch my wheelchair.
I will never open a door. I will never hold the door open for you if I ever had that opportunity.
No, but it's not that. It's if I go and I hold the door for you, are you going to run up and try to grab it from me and then make me go in?
Yes, but
because that's wrong.
Well, wait, but I would do that for an able-bodied person as well.
But you're gonna run across the parking lot and grab that door?
Oh no, I'm not running for anybody. I'm not. If you were like in your dying breath, I mean, like that's why I asked. Would you be able to tell my body language that this person is doing this because they're self-serving and they have pity for me, or they're genuinely being courteous? And I am typically that.
Yeah. So. Well, it's good to be courteous, but like I said, it goes too far a lot of the time, and especially if I'm holding the door for you, like just go through it, right. Because a lot of the time when they try to grab the door from me, they're like trying to step over me, and it just makes it all more awkward. And it's like there's this assumption that someone with a disability can't do this. They can't hold the door for me, or they're less than because they have this disability and I need to help them. And it's just this mindset that I feel like carries over into the whole mindset that is the problem in the first place.
Those last 6 or 7 sentences are exactly the reason that we do this podcast, to illustrate those types of examples. So thank you for doing that. I like to jump around, and I know we're also on a bit of a time crunch to get you over to Whitmer. You have, I guess I would say, 2 vehicles, your chair. We'll talk about that. But you brought up your truck. I scrolled through your socials. You love that truck, don't you?
Yeah.
It's a big, bad, black Dodge Ram?
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Ram Rebel. It's a Ram Rebel 1500, and I absolutely love it. Got to be a big fan of the Hemi, and, it's definitely a little bit of a gas guzzler, but... it gives me the freedom to go wherever I want and do whatever I want. It's basically just an extension of my wheelchair at this point. And so,
do you have a name for it?
It's great. I haven't named her yet.
How long have you had it? Her? Sorry.
Since 2019.
What are your, everybody probably when they meet you asks you about you and what they see. Excuse me. What are your interests outside of what everybody sees in the celebrity of you? Like, are you a diehard car person, truck person?
I really like my truck, but it's not like I do like to modify my truck and, go off-roading and camping. But one of the things I spend a lot of my time doing is metal fabrication. So I build my own wheelchairs.
Awesome.
Now, and I've built some for friends and stuff, and I just like having that freedom to tweak things and customize it, and kind of just make some awesome looking wheelchairs. So
you would say that's your hobby?
Yeah, it's a hobby that I'm pretty obsessed with.
What would be a hobby that has nothing to do with the wheelchair or anything like that? Pokemon cards, you binge watch 80s TV shows. Did I just ask you an embarrassing question?
No, like I really am either at the skate park or I'm in the garage.
Totally fine.
I'm pretty boring.
Has anybody... I don't know if this is a record or not, but we made it 13 minutes into the podcast, and it's my first superhero reference. Has anybody else made the Tony Stark comparison to you?
I've never heard that.
Really? Really?
Is it because I'm part metal?
No, because Tony didn't have hobbies other than, well, in the comics, drinking a lot and partying, but he was always tinkering with his suits. That's why there's like a million Iron Man suits. Are you a superhero movie person at all?
Not really, no.
Okay. If you watch the Iron Man movies, and you don't think you see some of yourself in there, I will buy you your next Starbucks, as big and as dessert laden as it is. Because he was always tinkering in that shop. And what you just said about like tinkering, you make your own chairs now?
Yeah, that was one benefit of COVID for me, was it, since I'm a performer, all my performances stopped for a few years. And so it gave me the opportunity to, because I was interested in building chairs because I break them a lot.
I can imagine.
So, it was just kind of like, I need to learn how to do this. And, I'm grateful that I was able to take the opportunity to kind of learn. And, I built a few chairs before one was actually decent, and so
did Tony Stark.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. This is insane.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch it.
You absolutely do. And I hope when you watch this, you're like, you say to your wife, he was right. He was totally right. And then you go watch all 30 Marvel movies. You build the chairs for friends as well?
Yeah, I've sold 2 to friends, and then built one for another friend, and I actually built one for my wife. And just, it's fun to just build them for different people and be able to change it up to what they want.
Your chair right now, what's the value of that? Like what was the cost to put it all together?
Oh man, because some of the parts are CNC'd, so that kind of bumps up the price. Something like this, if you were to pay for it, would probably be $5,500 to $6,000.
I would have guessed more.
You're kind.
I can be bad with math at things at times. What is WCMX?
Yeah, so when I first started going to skate parks on my chair, there really wasn't anyone doing it. And so I was just calling it hardcore sitting, for quite a while. But
that's a great phrase.
And that was little me, thought that was amazing. But then the more I rode and the older I got, I was like, it's cool, but it doesn't sound mainstream. It doesn't sound like a sport, really. It just kind of sounds a little redneck. So I was like, I'm really inspired by BMX and their tricks, especially. And so I was just like, well, I got big wheels like a bike. And I mean, I also have on a lot of my chairs skateboard wheels on the front. And, some people had called it wheelchair skateboarding. And I was like...
Very wordy. Mouth. Yeah.
Very wordy, and there's no skateboard. Right. I was like, I'm not a fan. And so I just kind of was like, WC wheelchair MX, like BMX. And I was like, boom.
Perfect.
Sounds cool.
When you first got going, what was your hardest fall where maybe you were... How many ever feet up in the air? Your face was, I guess, parallel to the ground, and you're like, this is it. I'm going to need to go have oral surgery after this.
Man, there was this crash on Mega Ramp when I was a little bit younger. One of my first times actually jumping a full-size Mega Ramp, the wood one. And I just kind of came down, like you said, face first. And I was, like you're saying, like I was 20 feet up in the air coming down, smashed my face. And I wear a full face helmet, you know, and it shoved it back into my teeth and busted my front teeth. And I'm just like, crap. And so we kind of scramble going over the ramp, picking up little pieces of teeth so I can go get them glued back in.
Oh my goodness. Was there a point where you're like, I have to stop doing this? Or did something like that just say, I'm going to get back up there and do it again?
Because actually after that, we set the pieces of teeth to the side and I went for it again. I'm going to be more lightweight now that my teeth are gone. And, I've already done that, so might as well try again. And that next one, I just destroyed a wheel, and it didn't go very well. So, that was kind of in the earlier days when I was still trying to figure it out and crashing. And, I don't know if people realize it took me like a while before I finally landed just a jump on the Mega Ramp. So... it was just one of those things.
The backflip changed everything for you?
Yeah, when I landed the first backflip at 14, it ended up on YouTube. It went viral, got over 1 million views in a week. And, I definitely have to give a shout out to YouTube for, help boosting me to where I am now. But, it was definitely crazy that, I was 15 years old when my career started to, kind of take off.
I don't know much about your family. Do you mind talking about them at all? Tell me about your parents. We've talked about your brother. How about your mom, your dad, whoever's close to you, how they felt about you being up in the air?
They, of course, mom gets nervous.
Sure.
Dad is, they're both really encouraging, and they've always done what they could to help me. And, whether that's buying me new parts for my wheelchair in the beginning before I got sponsored, but or paying to send me off to camps to learn tricks and stuff. They were just always super supportive. And now my mom is actually a wound care nurse, so that definitely comes in handy sometimes. For sure. But no, they've been awesome and definitely a key to where I am now.
Do you ever show up to events or places and kind of like any sport where David and Goliath kind of thing, where this big linebacker looks at this scrawny little quarterback and said, this dude is not beating us today. People have doubt in you. Like maybe they've heard of your videos and they're like, this dude is not doing that. And then you blow them away and drop their jaws. Do you ever have those kind of instances?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the times I pull up to a skate park and, skaters have their vibes sometimes, and they'll be kind of like, first of all, what are you doing in my park? Second of all, what are you doing in my park with a wheelchair, And so they definitely have that vibe. But then after I go and I bust like a hand plant or a backflip or something, it's like, it just changes, their whole vibe. And, it's kind of cool to see sometimes. And I definitely enjoy, showing up to a new park for the first time.
That kind of sounds like a movie. Will there be a movie about you one day?
Who knows?
Do you like the nickname Wheels?
I do. I didn't give it to myself, I promise.
You can't give yourself a nickname, can you?
No, it's not the same.
What were you called in a good way? Maybe just like in a jovial, teasing way when you were a kid?
Well, so Wheels originated in middle school for me, but it started off as the bullies calling me Wheelies because I was always doing a wheelie. And then they started calling me Wheels because for shorter, I guess. But I think they were thinking that it was derogatory or putting me down. But
sure.
I'm like, no, I am Wheels. Like, right. I've got wheels. Like, I don't get how it's insulting because it's fact.
Does your wife have a name for you?
Honey Bun.
How about when she's upset with you or angry at you? You can scream it out if you want.
No, I usually just call you first and middle name.
What's your middle name?
James.
Aaron James, right now.
Yep, that's it.
He just bounced back a little bit, so that's absolutely it. Is there a dream trick that you'd like to do? I just read the ridiculousness that Tom Cruise is going to shoot a movie out in space. Do you have a dream stunt? Would doing something in space be something you'd want to do?
I mean, jumping high enough to reach orbit would be pretty cool.
Or how about coming out of it?
Oh, and
parachuting?
I thought parachuting and then cutting away and hitting a mega ramp would be pretty cool. I would also be happy with the triple backflip. That's kind of what I could see off in the horizon is something that could be possible.
How the America's Got Talent project come to life? Did you just submit something? Did they see you?
So AGT reached out to me actually, and they were like, hey, we're doing this new series, AGT Extreme, because in the past I had been, offered the opportunity, but on a small stage, I can't really do a whole lot, you know, it's not very impressive. And so years later, they're finally like, hey, this is the opportunity. And so working with Nitro Circus to bring out the big ramp and all that stuff, I was in shock. I was like, wow, we're doing all this for me? Like, I'm a spoiled brat, but...
You're a celebrity.
something. But yeah.
You got the golden buzzer, and I heard you say at lunch yesterday you had no idea who Nikki Bella was or is.
Yeah, that's true.
Did you remedy that?
Yeah, for sure. Especially like, when she gave me the golden buzzer, because by that point I had known who she was. And
right.
I was just like, no way. Like, especially because I didn't think I was going to be moving on, because I did crash in my run before I went up and landed it. So I was like, there's no way I'm moving on. And when she gave me the golden buzzer, I was just like, no way, You, I don't know if it was through AGT or just being who you are and having certain opportunities, which are certainly cool. It sounds like you geeked out a little bit meeting Papa Roach. Oh, man. That, a few years ago, like probably 2017 or 18, they hit me up and had me come out and be a part of one of their new music videos. And that was insane to me, and it still is when I think about it. And then just recently we were able to have them come out to one of our Nitro Circus shows, and they got to come in and do a little bit of announcing and make their guest appearance, and I was just so fangirling the whole time, like,
so anytime somebody says cut my life into pieces, you say
suffocation, no breathing.
Yeah. So I'm imagining what year were you born in?
91.
I'm imagining like 8-year-old Aaron saying, Carson Daly, get rid of these Britney videos and get my Papa Roach on the countdown. I want to see where it was today. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Also, you met Avril Lavigne. Were you a fan of hers?
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Is that his hall pass?
Yes, that's what you would say. Yeah.
Fair enough. Who's yours?
I don't even have one.
Okay. Tell me about meeting Avril.
So, growing up, like you're saying, like in
TRL
the 90s,
life.
and, her talking about skater boys, I was like, well, I'm a skater boy. But,
see you later, boy.
Basically. But when I was doing AGT and, she was doing like the opening act, kind of the opening for the show, and we got to watch her perform just as a private little thing. And I was like, wow, this is awesome, childhood dream. And then she like gets off stage and she's like 15 feet away from me. And I'm just like, I gotta go get a selfie. And I'm just like so nervous, but I finally get the balls to roll up to her. And I'm like, excuse me, can I get a selfie with you? And she's like, yeah, sure. And,
Who's another celebrity that you might have geeked out over, or you really bonded with them because they were just a cool, dope, down-to-earth person?
I'm going to have to say Simon.
Okay.
Simon Cowell from AGT, and also Terry Crews was the man, super genuine, super kind, and easy to talk to, and that, you see these guys on TV, and, Simon can be pretty rough to some of the acts.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I got a hall pass because of my sweet wheelchair or what, but it was really cool to be able to talk to Simon and, to see how down to earth he was.
Who's somebody that you met that was a jerk?
What was your name again?
I meant that a celebrity, and I am not that. Someone with some celebrity that you met and they dismissed you, or they just weren't as cool as you thought they'd be. My name's Eric, by the way.
Yeah, I can't really think of one off the bat.
Okay. Who would you like to meet?
Who would I like to meet?
Who's after Pop? You checked the box for Papa Roach and Avril. Who's somebody else that you'd like to meet?
That's so hard because I've been able to meet, so many of the people that I've idolized, and, meeting Papa Roach is definitely up there,
How about, did you see this Blink-182 tour that was announced?
Oh, yeah.
They're the When We Were Young tour.
Yeah.
So what was your excitement over Blink coming back?
Oh, so pumped, especially to see Tom making a comeback was definitely cool.
And Mark healthy too.
Yeah.
Because he had a cancer battle. What's your favorite? What do you think is the best Blink-182 song?
it's hard because I do like their California album. I really do like what's the name of the song? You're putting me on the spot.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
I really do like I like Los Angeles, and of course, like the older songs. I did growing up. Little 8-year-old me loved Rock Show.
Great song.
It's so good.
That was that the third single after All the Small Things and What's My Age Again?
I don't know. It was on the album Take Off Your Pants and Jacket.
Yeah. Personally, my favorite, and I'll never dismiss those massive hits, but I geek out a little bit when I hear I Miss You.
Oh,
I like that one a lot.
Where are you?
Oh, we should have just talked TRL the whole time. Last question. Do you do your own social media, or do you have a team that handles that?
I do it myself. I wish I had a team.
You can hire a team.
You have to be a celebrity for that.
You have half 1,000,000 followers on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot to manage, especially when you're doing it by yourself. What's your personal strategy you use? Because it can be consuming, and I'm sure there's been times where people were real a-holes and you just wanted to sign off forever. So what's your mindset about all of it?
I try not to obsess about it too much, but I definitely get in my head about a lot of stuff, especially like the haters, which, I definitely have haters, and just like people commenting like, oh my gosh, you could end up in a wheelchair or you could end up paralyzed. And I hate that comment because it implies that I have nothing else to live for. I'm at rock bottom, so I might as well just go big, and if I crash, it doesn't matter. And I'm just like, I could be having to backflip a power wheelchair, and so that comment really bugs me, but I do my best not to comment back. But generally on social media, I just like to post me having fun, and doing something like and that's basically it.
Conversely, what about when someone who finds you appealing slides into your DMs?
That doesn't really happen these days.
Really?
Yeah.
Because your wife will go crazy on them.
Yeah.
As you should.
Yeah.
He's the married man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, actual last question this time.
Yeah.
You've been running around here. You went to Anthony Wayne yesterday, Washington local schools, Whitmer later on. When you're not up in the air and you're talking, presenting, being a bit more inspiring through your words, what's something that you often share with kids, adults, audiences? So maybe a motto that you live by.
Yeah. One of the big ones I live by is my 2 more tries rule. Usually, doing some of these tricks, you get really beat up, and some you got to come back to, give it some time. But when you're in the heat of the battle, just like trying to land this trick, and you've tried it like double digits amount of times that day, and you're just like over it, I try to tell myself just 2 more tries. When I'm at that point of, okay, I'm done, just a couple more tries, because then that's usually when I end up landing it. And I tend to live by that, and it's kind of carried over into, the metal fabrication and stuff like that, where I'm like starting to feel like hopeless, like I'm not going to figure this out, or I suck, and so that rule has really just kind of helped me. And so I like to share that, and that whole like, don't give up mentally or physically, like keep believing and just put in the work.
Pick your teeth up.
Yep.
Put them in your pocket and get the heck back up there.
Yeah, send it.
I am always stealing thoughtful and profound things. One that I've stolen recently was just get 1% better every day. I'm going to steal your just 2 more times. Now, if we're on the 98th try, sometimes you got to take the L and go, this is just not working.
Well, but you're almost to 100, and that's a pretty cool number.
Get to the round number.
2 more tries.
2 more tries is a great strategy, though. Is a great strategy. There is some, I think it's like an Edison quote. So many people who gave up didn't know how close to success they actually were. And I think the Edison one might be, I didn't fail 100 times. I learned 100 lessons. So it was great to learn a lot about you. Great to sit here and chat, and thanks for the time, and thanks for doing this, and thanks for being inspiring, because you hit on some great things here that no one said on the podcast, and I think is really important. That's why we do this.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Even though I was a jerk?
Yeah, you know, we're all jerks, right?
This is Chief Armstrong with Toledo Fire and Rescue. 68 Words has been a production of the Ability Center, hosted by Cumulus Media's Eric Chase. Engineering provided by Will Mellon and executive produced by Mallory Crooks. If you, your group, organization, or business is interested in hosting a disability awareness experience or have other inquiries, please contact info@abilitycenter.org. Until next time, think differently. Think differently. Think differently. Think differently.